Welcome to Escapists Anonymous, the fantasy fiction book club. I'm Dan.
And I'm Sam. This is a podcast for people who love to read and who read to escape into worlds of magic and adventure. But don't let that adventure end when you finish your book.
Join us on Escapists Anonymous to carry on the conversation.
All right, on to another new book. I feel like, now that we've switched to doing a new book every episode, it feels like it's just such an intense pace that we keep up with reading these books. But it also feels like it's been a while since we've done a romantasy. The Night and the Moth by Rachel Gillig. Here it is. Although, romantasy, question mark?
That was my main note on it, really. I feel like that's going to put off a lot of people that would really enjoy this.
Because I believe you said that we had a listener who recommended us read a Rachel Gillig when we'd been doing some romantasy novels,
Yes,
right?
we had a comment, I think it was on one of the episodes we did on The Serpent and the Wings of Night, where someone had very kindly taken the time to comment and request that we read her, is it One Dark Window? One of her other, I think there's a duology that she'd released.
The Shepherd King, One Dark Window, Two Twisted Crowns.
Yes, so I'll compromise on that because we're focusing a little bit more on newer releases. I thought, if someone's recommending an author to us, who are we to say no? So apologies, It's taken us a little while since that episode, but we are now going to cover a little bit of what's labelled as romantasy, but I think we can get into whether it is actually romantic.
I can only assume that her previous novels were a bit more saucy than this. I feel like this book is just low-level horny. Just the kind of like, there's just some kind of like, ooh, feeling a bit saucy, but I'm not sure if I want to do anything. It's that kind of that kind of vibe. Like everyone just keeps commenting about how that Roderick Mendacious, he's a bit naughty, and like it's like a 1970s British sitcom where everyone's just a bit cheeky.
And then there's one chapter.
And then there's just this is the thing. Even that sex scene was just like, I think maybe because you've read some other books that are a bit more full on. Maybe I've just grown kind of immune to the wiles of romantasy.
Yeah.
But anyway, so before we get too far into it, new book, new blurb. Sybil Delling has spent 9 years dreaming of having no dreams at all. Like the other foundling girls who traded a decade of service for a home in the great cathedral, Sybil is a diviner. In her dreams, she receives visions from 6 unearthly figures known as omens. From them, she can predict terrible things before they occur, and lords and common folk alike travel across the kingdom of Traum's windswept moors to learn their futures by her dreams. Just as she and her sister diviners near the end of their service, a mysterious knight arrives at the cathedral, rude, heretical, and devilishly handsome. The knight Roderick has no respect for Sybil's visions. But when Sybil's fellow diviners begin to vanish one by one, she has no choice but to seek his help in finding them, for the world outside the cathedral's cloisters is wrought with peril. Only the gods have the answers she is seeking, and as much as she'd rather avoid Roderick's dark eyes and sharp tongue, only a heretic can defeat a god. What do you think about that one as a blurb?
I mean, it's fine.
It implies a different order of plot to me.
I guess, yeah.
As the diviners vanish one by one, they all vanish in like 2 chapters of the book.
Yeah, it's about 24 hours combined between the first one going missing and the last one. Yeah.
For me, it felt like it was going to be more of a race against time, like what's happening to each of them. Instead, they're all just like gone. She's like, oh, right, well, I better look into this then. Seems I'm the only one left. Oh, I found out what's happening. The abbess is taking them. I better leg it.
Yeah. I mean, I don't think it massively like misleads you in terms of like what the plot's going to focus on.
Yeah.
So there's still the whole thing about, the night and the and her having to turn to him for help with finding the or make an agreement, I guess, with him and Benji and the others. But yeah, I mean, I guess it has the devilishly handsome thing, which gives you that hint towards the romance stuff.
But that's fine. That's to be expected in a book like this.
I don't think it sounds like a romantasy, like, first and foremost from that description, necessarily.
And which is actually quite accurate, because it is barely a romantasy. I think the only other thing I take issue with is that, she receives visions from 6 unearthly figures known as omens. From them, she can predict terrible things before they occur, and lords and common folk alike. So it's kind of like, it seems like a kind of yes/no tick box that her dreams are. It's just like, okay, so
good omen, bad omen.
Ink pot, it didn't spill. Good. The ore, it's done something bad.
Yeah.
And because we only see what it happened once, we don't really get a sense of those mechanics. So there was one thing that kind of threw me off early on, which was I don't understand how this works. I get that she's a diviner and that she has visions, but the visions seem a bit weird, and I wanted more of the vision, more understanding of it before we had everything upended. You know?
No, I mean, I guess I jumped to a conclusion of what you said, and I guess that does make that description in the blurb a little bit inaccurate, where I think it is they're either good omens or bad omens. They're not making predictions about events that are going to happen, because
nothing specific. I never get the sense that she could predict a specific event happening.
Yeah.
No.
And people come to her just asking her oh, is this a good omen? Is this a bad omen?
Should I have a good feeling in my tummy? Or should I be a bit worried?
So that we always come to that question, is have the people that write these actually read the book, or have they typed it into ChatGPT and
fill out the mechanics. When I think and I will say there's a lot I enjoy about this book, but I feel like the magic system is such a side thing that I just didn't really care about. As a symbol, and I'll talk about this in a bit. As a symbol, I thought it was quite interesting, what they represent and what this book is saying. But this magic's a bit crap. The magic system and all of it, I was just yes, okay. So they're the diviners, and they do a very, very basic thing. I don't quite believe that this would be the structure you'd build a whole society around, because of the people needing to come to the cathedral.
I don't know. I guess I kind of took it that was the point, was that the magic wasn't anything sort of actually divine. It was it was a thing that existed, but it was something that somebody's exploited.
Quite iconoclastic kind of approach.
Yeah, exactly. So I think I thought that was a strong element of the plot, and that's kind of the point that Benji and Rory and Maud are trying to sort of get to, where it's this is all bollocks. It's actually all bollocks. But then obviously we have our relatively predictable twist with Benji at the end, and he's going to try and kind of create his own power base off of that similar idea of sort of keeping Sybil as the as the sort of connection to that magic system.
Yeah, what did you think about the fact that blurb calls her Sybil the whole time, but for most of the book she's called Six?
Yeah, I mean, it's not like a mystery though, is it? We have it very early on where she tells us that. It's
quite symbolic that when she decides to shed the name of Six and go back to being Sybil, it's quite a thing. So for her to be referred to as Sybil the whole way, I would have put her that she was Six. That's her name. She is one.
Yeah, even after she started being Sybil, I still thought of her as Six anyway. Yeah. So I mean, I think the one thing missing is the main character of this book, which is the gargoyle from that book. By far and away the most enjoyable element.
I enjoyed him a lot.
Yeah, he's great.
As we find out, his name is.
Yeah.
I really enjoyed the relationship between him and Six. Like, you know, him being all petulant and being a bit broody and kind of like
Emotional.
Yeah, I just thought, like,
starts crying when people are nasty to him.
yeah,
But it worked. So it was so good, and like, even the way. So there's several things about that. Like, one is that I think Rachel Gillig's very good at writing funny interactions.
Yeah.
She's very like she's done that really, really well. But two, it's like it turns out that he was a child, and so actually his emotional reactions to things are like really appropriate, and his kind of his inability to articulate what he thinks all the time, it actually starts to make sense more as you kind of get that story of his background.
There were a few things that stuck with me as kind of like the fact that we find out that he was the original child and he was he was dying and he then got tortured as he turned into a gargoyle. It had so much depth to his character. And also if you compare it to like when we find out the fact that he's trying to cling on to his identity as Bartholomew, and it makes it all the more sad. I compared it to when you find out in the TV series in Game of Thrones why Hodor keeps saying Hodor. I was like, this is way better. Like the reason why he says Bartholomew absolutely blows blooming Hodor's reason out of the water. Like there's so much more to it rather than hold the door.
It's one of those things where I guess up until you start piecing those things together and get that backstory of Bartholomew, like he is just the comic relief kind of character. But like,
she invested enough time into him as a character that he gets that, and it's a good payoff.
Yeah, but I don't like the way he takes offence to things that people say. I don't like. There's a moment where he shouts. Someone says something. Is it Rory or Maud that says something, and he's like, "That's derogatory." And that, like, the audiobook does a really good job of kind of bringing his funny lines to life. So
I guess the delivery would really work. Like if it's done well, it's good.
Yeah.
Also, when he likes being the hero, when he swoops in and like flies people off, he's just like, "Oh, I'm so good. I'm the best at this." You're like, yeah, great. He's like been trapped inside a cathedral for so long, and he's finally feeling empowered. So awesome. But I mean, as well as him, I liked a lot of the other characters. I liked Six/Sybil. You know, I kind of, I understood her character of she has this fun side because she's quite witty, but she's also been very dedicated to her craft, and it's held her back. And there's all those kind of like classic tropes of the cloistered nuns, the Vestal virgins, the Delphic oracle, those kind of elements. And her and all the other diviners kind of defy that a little bit in a really kind of enjoyable way. Like it's just built in. It's not like, oh, we reject these things and we're going to have naughty dalliances with knights. Like they do it on the regular, and it's just built in as like their approach to sex and relationships in this book is really kind of just casual and fun. It's not this kind of like breaking of a taboo, and it's not like everyone's just at it all the time, the corruption of like a court. It's just like they're teenagers and they want to have a roll in the hay. It was something kind of like nice and enjoyably innocent about it.
Yeah, it could have easily been like boring, holy, sort of nunnery type of setting. But yeah, like they have again, I think Rachel Gillig's done a good job in terms of consistency, in terms of like how they interact with the world and how they see themselves. So they do still see themselves as these like divine, beings who are slightly above. But that actually, what that means to them is not that they have to be, chaste and like it's like, well, actually we can do what we want. We're the fucking diviners. And yeah, she's the divinest diviner.
Which is why she gets given a hammer and chisel for some reason. Like, was that weird for you? That she was like, "You're my favorite. Have the hammer and chisel."
But did they not all spend their time like hammering away
doing different crafts? I think they'll get slightly different.
Do they get different ones?
Yeah.
Oh, okay, yeah, I'd understood that wrong then.
Yeah, but but they keep commenting about why she's so strong, and I thought it was like, oh, is it because of years of stonemasonry, or is it like? Because I think Maud at some point comments on her muscular legs, and the fact that she could rugby tackle a knight in armor to the ground. I was just like, oh, right, she is capable. She is strong. Like, and it's kind of just built into her character. And I like that. She wasn't some kind of like fey waif who's just like, I don't know anything of the life outside these walls.
Yeah.
You know, she still felt capable. And she kicked ass with a hammer and chisel. At different points, just like hammering it into people's bodies. I was like, oh, this is a good way to use this weapon. Well,
It's not quick.
no.
It's like, hold on. You stay still.
But just like clubbing people across the head with the hammer as well. Like it was like, you know, these were the tools that she almost like she relied on them. They were the things that were familiar to her, and she made good use of them outside of their original purpose.
Yeah. I guess at a certain point I was trying to figure out whether they were symbolic of anything, but
I mean, there's the whole thing of the stone and water. Like, this is the Stonewater Kingdom. You know, like, stone is just such an intrinsic part of I mean, I don't know, like, the colour of this book maybe kind of, like, set my mind going, these kind of blues and greys. But the world felt cold and just wet stone. I mean, again, like, I know it's very, very at the forefront because of the name of everything, but, like, I just constantly pictured how prevalent stone must be. This big, tall cathedral. There's the cliffs. They got to go up a mountain to get to the river, and there's these big pools and the hot springs. Like, just everything that Rachel Gillig was describing seemed to be all in and of just different variations. And, you know, maybe she was strong because she's slowly turning into a gargoyle. I was also wondering about that, like this transition between fluidity and rigidity, you know, being this kind of this juxtaposition throughout the whole book, you know, because with the idea of breaking down systems and, you know, constantly moving and changing, and when something ossifies, it becomes inherently bad. There was something, like I mentioned, iconoclasm, something quite anarchic to this whole book. You know, like, did you kind of pick up on much of this? Like, you know, you've got Benji as a king, but he's elected, you know, chosen, albeit by a group of aristocrats. People don't have a say, but at least he feels like he's representing some kind of voice of the people, and he's trying to break down this existing system. They've got to go one by one and break all of them down and take their symbolic power, which represents all of them. It's almost like, you know, a populist uprising in order to take down an existing system that exists only for a very privileged few, you know. And he has the support of Rory, who is the working class, Maud, who comes from the aristocracy, and as the book progresses, Six/Sybil, who is a kind of a revisionist, revolutionary part of the church. And, you know, you kind of have this hope that they're going to topple it all, and at the very end, he, of course, betrays them all because he just wanted to put in his own system in place.
Yeah, I definitely see some of that in there. I think it's interesting, like the role of, you know, the king, arguably the biggest kind of establishment figure that you could possibly have, being like leading a populist uprising. And I think, like it's interesting that you know, that the king is pitched as the sort of anti-establishment figure throughout. You mentioned the night that she, you know, she almost goes and has a roll around with at the beginning.
Hamlin or something like that?
Yeah. Hamelin. I think something like that. It's one of those funny things where, like, whenever you needed another perspective that wasn't Rory, Maud, the gargoyle, Sybil, or Benji, he just happened to be around. Like there was no one else. Like, we cannot be bothered to introduce another like side character to give you a perspective of what the knights might think or what else has happened across the other side of town. It's like, oh, Hamelin. How convenient.
This is the thing, he kind of needed to be there throughout because you needed to have that character so that he could always function as the other guy. You know, like, you know, he's the one that Six is like, well, I'll have a little bit of frisky time with you in a field. Oh, sorry. And he's like, oh, okay, don't worry about it. But interesting how he, you know, he has developed throughout the thing. We then find out, oh, he's from a rich and powerful family. There's his mum. And then, at the end of the day, he's like, yeah, sorry, but we're the rich, powerful ones. And as much as I'm a bit useless and not as good as the rest of you, I'm still going to come out on top. Yeah. You know? Yeah,
definitely. So, shall we dig into the romance and the romantasy discussion here? Because, like I said, I think my big takeaway from this is that and without wanting to do the whole like pigeonholing thing of like only women read fantasy, like I want to at least be realistic about the fact that there's a core target audience around romantasy that probably isn't sort of heterosexual men.
Speak for yourself.
But I think having the label of romantasy on this is doing it a bit of a disservice.
Yeah,
and maybe I'm wrong. Maybe it's not that, that much of a kind of issue for people. But like, I think this is a fantasy story with a romance subplot, and it's got a little bit of spice in there that very briefly comes up and, consummates something that's been developing throughout. But no more so than Godkiller had, really.
Oh yeah, no, absolutely. Like this was very low level romance.
Yeah,
Yeah, but I mean, like, I think maybe there was more at some point, but in the writing of it, the plot came to the fore. Like, I felt like there was a lot of stuff to say in the main plot line. And she was probably like, as she was writing, was going like, oh, actually, no, this is more important than just the fact that some priest lady wants to have sex with a saucy knight.
Yeah, but I wonder whether there's also a thing, and I think I heard someone say this on another, book podcast or something, but like really good romantasy, and maybe this does therefore fit in the romantasy, subgenre. Really good romantasy should be like 20% romance, 80% like solid plot that doesn't like really sort of matter whether there's romance.
Even 20%? I wouldn't say it was even 20%.
Well, I guess if you counted all of the interactions, the kind of flirty, them being nasty to each other, which we all know is school playground flirting stuff.
Yeah, exactly. It's the kind of thing you see in an Indiana Jones film. Like, or any other kind of classic, action film where there's a
Han and Leia.
Exactly. Anything with Harrison Ford in, seemingly.
Yeah.
And it's instantly relatable. The kind of dynamic you're getting into from the moment that Roderick trots up and she's looking down at the wall at him, being like, "Who is this? Who is this cocksure knight?" And he's like, "Hey, what's up, priestess? Boo, 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 boo. Let me in."
Here's my abs.
Yeah. Yeah, pow.
I just happen to be topless when she walks.
Oh yeah, when she walks into the hall and they're being all naughty and drinking the spring water, and he's just like, "Oh, I'm having my wounds healed. Oh, and you're soaking wet."
I'm rugged.
I think at that point I probably did expect it to get sexier a lot quicker.
Yeah,
because of that point where she is just like, "Oh, and he could see all of my curves, left nothing to the imagination."
Yeah. Yeah. I think there was the moment where he was trying to teach her to swim, like the day before she had to fight. What's his name on the
Ardent Oarsman.
The Ardent Oarsman. Yeah, it's like I think this is a lost cause. I don't think anyone's learning to swim in a day. But it was like they were both totally naked. And
in them lovely hot springs.
Yeah.
Do it.
Yeah, so... that somehow they managed to restrain themselves even in that moment.
Yeah, but I mean, who knows? Maybe the sequel to this book would be called something like, I don't know, the whore and the penis. It would just be going full on.
The sex and... not
the
much
sex,
else.
Yeah. So like, and she's just like, I'm storing all up for the sequel. That's the ultimate payoff. You have to read a whole book where there's very little sex. Just to
yeah, because I've taken it as a really good thing that there was only this small amount of romance. There's probably other people who love reading books in this genre that are like, where was the fucking romance?
Yeah,
when I say romance, I mean sex.
Yeah, I mean, but I still like their dynamic, and I thought, like, as much as Rory/Roderick was kind of like a bit of a just filling a template as as that kind of character, it was still all right. I mean, their back and forth was enjoyable. Like, they were antagonistic enough at the right amounts so that it was still likable.
Yeah.
This was fun. It was fun getting on each other's nerves. Having digs at each other. It was good.
Yeah. Did you believe the kind of arc from sort of antagonistic to flirty to downright in love
Yeah, I don't think it really did anything particularly groundbreaking with it, and didn't make it particularly out of, like, it wasn't interesting because of how uniquely it was done. It was by the numbers, but it worked because the characters were written enjoyably enough.
There was that classic, like, oh my god, he was a foundling too. Now I can love him sort of moment.
And I really look forward to if they ever do some kind of adaptation of this, like how much charcoal eyeliner this guy's going to have to be wearing, because it gets mentioned so much in the book. He'd smudged his charcoal eyeliner again. Oh, his eyes were so dark.
I just imagine he's in agony all the time.
Yes,
it's like
in my eyes.
charcoal sweating into his eyes. Just like, ugh. Like bloodshot eyes and
This is
charcoal.
a terrible thing.
Just...
Yeah, so other than the romance, so like the wider world, one thing that I thought, I can't tell if it's intentional, so you tell me what you think. This world is tiny. Absolutely tiny. There are 5 hamlets. I mean, some of them like cities and towns and stuff, but they're called the 5 hamlets. But like the map, when I saw it at the start of the book, yeah, there is a map. It's very basic, like, it's nice, perfectly nice. So you've got all the different bits, right? So you can see pretty much, this is the entire world. This is everything and all the locations in the book. And there is, as far as I can remember, there is not a single mention of anything outside of this that we see there. Like, we do not know of other kingdoms. We do not know of anything about the world. And I think, you go back to, books we've covered in previous episodes, like, when I've heaped lots of praise upon the Black Tongue Thief because of the world building and how countries interrelate and the passing of the seasons, the calendars, everything. This almost felt like an intentional opposite of that, whereas like, I will only tell you about the things you need to know.
Yeah.
It is these 5 towns. There's a mountain over there. There is a stream over there. The sea is over there. And as far as you're concerned, nothing else exists.
Yeah, I guess I didn't spend a huge amount of time thinking about anything outside of
Because you're not
that
told.
world. But we're not. Yeah, exactly. Like, why would I? And there were a couple of times where I noted that they would, they had to get back really quickly, and it was like less than a day's ride on horseback. It's like we went as fast as we could, and we were back in under 24 hours. It's like, and my understanding was that they were as far as they were ever going to get away from. What was this? The main city?
Traum.
Traum. Traum.
Traum. Traum.
I think they say Traum in the audiobook. But yeah. It felt to me like one of those fantasy books where it's like, we'll just do it in like a, kings and castles and knights with swords and spears, and we don't really have to then talk too much about the world. Like, people can very easily get on board with that. There's villages where there's marketplaces and traders and foundling children, and like,
it seems so intentionally small. This is what really struck me, is like, it's not that there's towns with marketplaces. There is a town with a marketplace, and it is called Coulson Fair. Like, the other towns have the other features, and they don't have the same things. Everything here is a self-contained world where you have the marketplace, and then you have the place that does the wood. You don't have, there's a lumber mill outside of most towns. There is only one place that delivers the wood. There is one place where the water comes from, and it is up at the top of a cliff. Like, it feels like such an intentionally weirdly self-contained world. And I was waiting for any point when they would just branch out, and I was just like, why are they not? And that's why it got me thinking about this, like, what is the purpose of everything serving in this world? And actually, when I was thinking about like how everything is representative of a very singular part of a society, like the information, the wealth, the water,
Does
like,
the map make it look like an island, or does it border other?
No, it just goes. I'll show you again. It just there's a bit that just goes up to a hill, and then beyond that hill, who knows what's there? Like, it's just sky. It doesn't have.
Yeah, so it could be something like The Children of Gods and Fighting Men by Shauna Lawless, that we read previously, where you have like 300 kings of Ireland, or
exactly.
like there could be another king across the border, but people, as long as they're not being invaded, are very much just contained within their own little world.
And like, this is almost like, when you have a child's fairy tale, where like there is a king and they have a kingdom and there is one town that you know of. It just seems so pointed. I'm kind of expecting for the next book to be like, there's so much more beyond this, because they've just torn down the system of this 5 towns, right? Like, what's next? Like,
Yeah,
I mean,
really interesting, because I didn't really think about that at all in terms of how small it seemed, or certainly I noticed that it didn't seem like there were huge distances that they were travelling. But I wonder whether that's like a thing. Like, maybe there is a little bit of a children's fairy tale,
and that's the thing. If it is
with
the whole,
sex.
yeah, with a bit of sex. If the whole purpose of it is just to encapsulate how a society works and how you overthrow a system, then it's fine, because it works, because it's there. It's a condensed microcosm. So if it's that, it's that. But then there's just the suggestion. There's that constant thing in the back of my head being like, but what if there's more? And I think the story's perfectly good if it's just that. It's condensing down the systems. But I'd love it if we saw in future books that there's a reason why this system is so contained, because it's how it was designed, within the fiction of the world, as well as just within Rachel Gillig's head. And it could be me just overthinking it, but like I was kind of intrigued by that.
Yeah, because I think where we're at the end of the book doesn't give me the impression that we're going to have some huge expansion if the story continues. Like we've ended up in this situation, and spoiler alert, which we should always do. We end up in the situation where Rory and Maud and the gargoyle are banished off to who knows where, but like
just over the hill.
It sounds like they won't be banished off very far.
They'll literally be within sight most of the time.
Next town, which you can literally see from.
Yeah, if you get up high enough, you'll be able to see them.
But the story will be about how they managed to liberate Sybil, I guess. Like that.
Yeah.
I mean, I wasn't expecting us to end in a situation where this was a series. I thought we were going to have like a real kind of enclosed.
From the turn of the first page, and I turned it over, Stonewater Kingdom, book 1.
Oh, yeah, okay.
And,
I didn't have that on the audiobook.
Yeah. And I was just like, okay. But
who's to say that book 1 isn't the last book in the series?
could just be that. But so I think the ending did some good things. I think the ending did some real cardinal sins, in terms of how I think a book should end, even if it's part of a series, right? So, by the end of it, they had defeated in some shape or form all of the omens.
Yeah.
Cool. Done. Right. That was the main, they found out what happened to the diviners. Turns out they're all dead. Bit of a shame. Okay. We found out a bit more.
Waste of time for the whole book.
What a waste. We kind of knew that they were all going to be dead.
Yeah.
But the abyss is defeated. There's a change in the system, and we've learned more about the origins of the magic and Bartholomew and a whole bunch of other stuff. Loads and loads of it has been closed off, right? I think if the story had ended with that, it would have been way better. What they've effectively had is the inciting incident for the next book at the end of this book, which is stupid, because you want to have, it would be fine if we ended with just an implication that the king had other plans, and maybe everything wasn't going to be perfect, and then at the start of the next book he's then just like, well, I mean, Rory, you still refuse to swear fealty to me, and I really need to kick up the next stage of my plan. I've got the vest, because of him mentioning, of course, the vested interest, and this, and this, and this, and this. That's why I'm going to stab you, grab you, and off I go. It's like, take your time with it. Have all that happen at the start of the next book and be a big bombshell opening where the status quo that we thought we'd achieved has been upended again. Don't put it here. It's stupid.
Yeah. I mean, I partly agree. As you know, I'm slightly more forgiving of, giving a hook into the next book in the series if it's done well. And my problem with this was that I thought that whole thing at the very end with Benji's Benji's betrayal and what happens with Sybil like agreeing to be his queen and blah. I just thought it was way too rushed. It's really my only criticism of the book. I really enjoyed this. Like I had a great time. It was easy to just float into my head and not be too complex. It did a really good job of balancing the serious plot with the comic relief, all of that stuff. It felt like when we had that Benji twist, it was like, no, you have to be my queen or else I'll kill these people. And Sybil was like, oh, all right. And then they went off, and that was it. Like I felt like that wouldn't have happened. Like knowing what we know about Rory and Maud and the gargoyle especially, like I don't think they give up that easily in that situation.
Yeah, they had like seven shades of shit kicked out of all of them. They weren't in a fighting situation.
But I still don't think they back down as easily as they do in that scenario. Whatever happens, like, and I think maybe that plays into your argument. I think it's one of two things. Like, my view is if you're insistent on putting it in this book, do it properly and make it an extra 50 pages or whatever, or move it to the start of the next book and make it the extra 50 to 100 to 300 pages that it needs to be to fill out the plot. So yes, I guess I partially agree. Like, one way or another, do it properly.
Yeah, and even the mechanics to make it happen as well. Like, then he rides up, because at certain points, because again, this whole kingdom is 5 towns. I never got a sense of how big the knighthood was. So when he rides up with the knighthood in tow, I'm just like, how many people is that? Because you've got, like, I thought like half of it was there, and it's Rory and Maud. Like, you've got Hamlin and like 2 or 3 other guys. Are there any others?
It's
like
more than 5, less than 5,000.
So, like, because I don't get a sense of scale. Like, is the castle, is it staffed by like just 2 old biddy maids because it's actually quite small? Like the population seem really weird to me.
No, you're right, because when they go up to the castle gates at one point, and it's just like, it's 2 guys. It's probably Hamelin.
It's like him again. Yeah, it's like in the Discworld novels where you've got Sean Ogg, who's like fulfills most of the tasks of the castle.
So I think there's very, very small criticisms. Still enjoyed. I would have liked it if it had just been a standalone. I don't know. Whilst I really enjoyed it, I don't know how much I'm bothered about reading the next one.
And yeah, I think you're right. Like, if she'd have set this down as just that, like the toppling of a system and the ultimate betrayal of the people who replaced it, added another 50 pages just to wrap that up, being like, okay, well, we've learned our lesson. This is the flaws that are inherent with when you try and replace the system and with a single toppling, rather than gradual systemic change. Like, great, have that as a metaphor within a fantasy novel, and then then you've got another 20 pages, just stuff that in there for another sex scene, just so we can meet that quota. But yeah, like, I would potentially be interested, because I've created in my head a mind-blowing Truman Show style fantasy world where this series is going to go, and it's going to be revolutionary. Trust me.
It's taking place in the year 3025, and
they want to, like, this future human civilization wants to analyze how a system can be overthrown. It's like, Assassin's Creed style. We're in the blooming weird computer program going back in time to figure out how things worked. It's like, it just something like that. So, like, if the book comes out and the blurb has any kind of hint that anything I've wildly predicted will happen, I'm reading it.
Yeah, I mean, if it makes it all from the perspective of the gargoyle, I'm in. Those are my terms and conditions. Again, like I said, I generally sort of I really, really enjoyed it. I think maybe I'm like that person I'm talking about, where I think the description of it as a romantasy is the type of thing that puts me off reading it, whereas actually I had a really good time reading it, and I would recommend it to anybody that likes a good, pretty simple fantasy story and doesn't mind a little bit of sexy action along the way.
Maybe Rachel Gillig's previous duology was a much raunchier thing, and she just wanted to move away from doing such sexy stuff, and still had to market it at that to get her audience. And that's fine. That just shows the limitations of being able to branch out when romantasy is such a big thing, and you want to still sell books. So I mean, I would say either the level of this means that it shouldn't be a romantasy and it's fine to market it, but whatever. Or she should have just chucked in a few more scenes. I probably would have had fun. I'd have enjoyed it.
Yeah. You'll make that one chapter really, really long.
Yeah. I mean, what was it in? Yeah, was it in Serpent and the Wings of Night, where it was just like 40, 50 pages of just a sex scene. I was like, all right, settling into this. Gonna sit on the tube and read this.
The common theme is they both have a thing. It's like, and then they did it all night. both the Serpent and the Wings of Night and this story. So whilst I haven't read much romantasy, that's kind of what I'm taking away. Obviously we did the Foxglove King, which was pitched as a romantasy, which didn't really seem to have any romance in it.
God, that book.
won't get Sam started on that, but I don't feel like that's a fair reference into the world of romantasy.
I think at some point as well, we should do a full-on, heavy-duty romantasy, just to see how extreme it can get. Because if we're going to experience in this podcast all different areas of fantasy, at some point we should go for one where we're like, all right, well, that was very hot and heavy.
Shall we do that as our call to action for comments from people for this episode? Is what should we read? I think this is great if this is a balance of romantasy of 20% or less, I was saying earlier. But what should we read if we want full on romantasy? Not just smut. There needs to be a fantasy element to it.
Not just smut,
but smut with fantasy,
with purpose.
Yeah.
We need to have sex to save the kingdom. That kind of thing.
Because the classic thing that I see all over the place is enemies to lovers, and that seems to be the big thing that comes up over and over again. But what? And maybe that's another question. Is what's your perception of what romantasy should be? If you're listening to this and watching this and you read romantasy, if that's your bag, then what should that balance of romance to plot be in order for that to kind of, that's definitely going to be a taste thing, isn't it? Each person's going to have a different level of desire and expectation when it comes to that. So tell us what you think, and attached to that, what's your perfect example of that balance of romance to plot?
Yeah, agreed.
So any final thoughts on this? No,
I mean, you summarised it quite well. It was a really fun read. I think Rachel Gillig did a really great job of creating this world. It suggested a lot more to me than who knows, and she's probably prepared to write. But I would. Well, you might not be interested. I would potentially read another one of these just to see where it goes. As much as I resent that final bit of the book to make me want to read more, I was going to read more anyway. You didn't need to do it.
That's what you got to tell us. I'm not reading it because you did the final chapter. I was going to do it anyway.
Yeah, but I'm not going to anymore because you put a silly bit at the end.
Yeah. I mean, I'm not against following up on this. I think her writing was really good. There was a quality, again, like I said, to the humour that she brought to it. I think if she released something else and people were saying it had that balance of humour, because I think that's something I've realised that I really love as well in the fantasy that I read is, whilst it can be great to do the super serious gritty stuff, the reason I love Joe Abercrombie so much is because it always makes me laugh, and same with Ben Aronovich and the Rivers of London series and lots of my favourite fantasy stuff. Christopher Buehlman's Black Tongue Thief, it made me laugh, and I think a lot of my favourite books make me laugh, and if it's making me laugh, then I'm probably going to be enjoying it, even if there are kind of minor flaws to it.
Yeah. I mean, I think I also inherently lean towards things that have a lighter tone, just because.
Terry Pratchett.
Yeah, exactly. But I would also be interested to learn, like, read something that is just like the pitchest of blackest of fantasies, like no light in it whatsoever, but still so good you can't help but read on.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. And again, there's so many books out there, and we want to balance up what we read.
Yeah,
you don't want to read the same thing over and over again, do you?
Who knows? Maybe our next book will be something that's very dark and heavy, because we're going to be reading Lady Macbeth
By Ava Reid.
By Ava Reid. It's that's quite a dark story. It's seemingly based on. So
Yeah, if you've studied Shakespeare or watched Macbeth, I guess
it's
know
not one
what
of his
direction
comedies.
you know what direction we're heading in with that. But yeah, really looking forward to dipping into that, because that feels like something totally different. It's an existing character that someone's
With a fresh new twist.
With a fresh new twist, yeah. Bringing it to life in a different way. So, yeah, next episode will be, and I don't know whether that will have some romance elements in or what. Who knows?
I love how we can walk into so many of these books absolutely blind. I try not to pay any attention to anything before we do it.
Yeah.
All I want to know is, like, are people talking about this book? Has it got some interest? Right, let's give it a go.
Yeah. So, yeah, we want to hear your views. We've already asked you a question specifically about romantasy, but you're always welcome to just comment on how you enjoyed The Knight and the Moth as well. Do so in the comments down below. If you're all watching us on YouTube, give us a like and a subscribe as well. That helps us out. If you want to get in touch on social media, at Escapists Anonymous Pod on Instagram, TikTok, Facebook. You can also try and connect with me on Fable. I'm loving that book community. It's the friendliest, nicest social media community out there. So definitely look me up, and I'll give you a follow back as well, because I love reading other people's reviews.
What's your handle on that? Is that still Escapism on the Pod?
No, I think it would just be my name, Dan Maloney. I have no idea. I don't think they do like @ things on there, so I have no idea how it works really, whether you can even search people. So yeah, Lady Macbeth in the next episode. Looking forward to that. So join us then. If you're watching, listening in real time, you can get stuck into that. And all that's left to say is thanks for watching, listening, wherever you're doing so. And we'll see you soon. And it's goodbye from me.
And goodbye from me.